Now loading.
Sam.Avi, a music producer and visual artist with a love for video games and animation. We talk about the importance of music and sound effects to the video game experience, as well as why creators should take their audience on a journey, even when their audience aren't ready to move on to something new, and more. Okay. So you being from Virginia, like how has that affected your creativity or just how you operate as an individual?
So being in Virginia, I was pretty much like raised there my entire life. So pretty much and it pretty much like revolved around like the people I was with, and on top of that, like the school I went to. Pretty much like there would be people who would like do music and stuff like that. And I feel like most of my life in like elementary school and middle school, I would just listen to like different types of music than like the majority of my friends, mainly like sample based stuff. And I was actually like getting into sampling as like not like making music with samples, but just learning how it works. Like in elementary school, like finding out like stuff about Daft Punk, how they make their music, and it just sort of it caused like my interest in making music to sort of spike. So in I want to say seventh grade, I made my current SoundCloud, and I pretty much had an iPad at the time, an iPad Mini. And while I didn't know how to sample, there was one application where you would like tap a bunch of buttons, and it would sort of like make like a little house track or whatever. They were really bad. It's still on my SoundCloud to this day, but I wanted to sort of like experiment with samples in a bit. And being in Virginia, definitely like I sat there and was like, hey, like, is there any like more big producers over there? And I realized that like, Pharrell, all these types of people were over there, but they already did their whole thing, and like they're already up in like different states doing different types of things. It's like I want to be the Virginia equivalent of like, I don't know, Madlib, like Obliv, knowledge. So not even to like be somebody else, but just like carry inspiration from like all these types of music that I listen to and just apply it to my own thing and just be known as my own person. And just, because Northern Virginia, like there's like some producers, but like there's not a lot of like big, well-known producers from here. So I want to like kind of break that mold and be one of the first, because a lot of people when it comes to like producing, they like they stick to either one genre, and I want to like kind of be I make like different types of music on my own spare time. I just think like what's in my mind, like what is like a good stepping stone, what is something I could use to make to just create in general, to just create any type of like song. And I'm just like just sit down and think, maybe I could just make video game music in one day, trap music another day, lo-fi another day, and it's just kind of sporadic in a way.
Yeah, see, that's the thing. I feel like you think in different ways. You think about how your music can be used in different arenas, in different spaces.
I've made like video game music before, just different types of stuff, just basing on how I think and like what I'm in the mood for.
Yeah, let's talk about video game music, because I just feel like video game music is
very important.
It's very important. It's
Sonic 3, with the whole Michael Jackson theory.
The whole
like there were rumors that like Michael Jackson actually composed the music in Sonic 3.
For Sonic, right?
Yeah, for Sonic the Hedgehog 3. And like because like there was a whole controversy regarding Michael Jackson at the time. So I think because of that they actually removed the credits at the last minute. Yeah. So like we don't officially know, but like most people, especially I heard like most people within, we all know it. We all know he did it. We know he did.
You can tell by the sound.
Just by the way, just by the synths and everything, you could tell Michael Jackson worked on it. because like if he was credited, that would have been like very, very,
That would have
very
been,
important. That would have
yeah,
been like game changing at the time.
yeah.
Like music, like video game music is already important now, but it would have had like more of a footing back at the time if Michael Jackson was credited. Just that one simple
Especially,
credit could have changed everything.
yeah. So what about video game music is, do you think attracts you to just the whole sound of it?
What about like pretty much what about video game music? So
Yeah.
the whole point of video game music is that just some of it has it you listen to some of the tracks and then you just sort of get a whole feeling for what the game like might contain or might entail in terms of its story. Like you listen to Animal Crossing music, it's like peaceful, relaxing. It has like, you know, just a certain feel to it that like is unique to Animal Crossing. And you see like other indie games that are similar to Animal Crossing, and then you notice that the music might like be like a little different, but can all like have relations back to the original track. Sonic music for another, which is another example. It's like you notice that it's like fast, but it has like a lot of synth notes in it and stuff like that. And you could tell that like it's up the way it's upbeat sort of affected other games of its genre. Like you notice how like when people make like Sonic inspired games, they use similar music. Even with Sonic Mania, it's like even though it's a modern, technically a modern version of a classic Sonic game or a modern like brand new take on a classic Sonic game, you notice how the music just sounds timeless. Good video game music always sounds timeless. Like you listen to it and you know even if like you know in itself it's a product of its time, it's just the sound can always sort of work its way up to, like from generation to generation, you know, down
Yeah.
from you know the upbeat you know music of Splatoon to dark music from like you know different types of games. It all depends on like the feeling that the developer is like giving to like the music, not even just the developer but the composer. It's a whole deal, and
Yeah.
it's just amazing how like some of these developers can pull off the music, especially Metal Gear Solid 3. That has like so many great tracks on it.
What a thrill, with darkness and silence through the night. What a thrill, I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. On a tree frog, it's ordeal, the trial to survive. For the day we see new light, I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time, cry.
the Tokyo 2020 Olympics, like during the beginning of the ceremony, the opening ceremony. Like they were playing video game music like the entire time, and it was like really, really nice.
Yeah. Do you know what I appreciated when what Frank Ocean did at the beginning of Channel Orange? It was the
Yeah,
PS1 opening.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. I
I was
remember now.
like,
I
yeah,
remember now. That was so.
yep.
That was
I
so
was like,
classic. Oh man.
yes.
That was
Because
that
even
was
even
great.
like that PS1 opening sound, or on PS1, um, no I think PS2, the
Oh,
menu,
PS2. Yeah, the menu
yeah,
music.
the
Yeah,
menu.
the menu music in general is iconic in itself. That
I
just represents
literally, I
like the good
literally
time.
took the PS2 menu sound
Hmm.
and made it an alarm clock,
Yeah, because it's that
just
good.
because I
It's
like
that
the sound so
memorable.
much.
The sound is so good. It's just
Yeah,
like it's simple, but it gets straight to the point and like it's
yeah,
nostalgic. For me, that equivalent is like the PSP's intro or like the startup because like growing up, I didn't have a PlayStation 2. I used the PSP and like just listening to like the beginning. It is like as like iconic. I don't want to say like as iconic as the PlayStation 2's theme because
yeah,
that's like a lot more iconic, but it's still like it still held its value. I noticed that like
yeah,
certain producers even they use it in like their music and stuff like that, and it's pretty awesome. Like it's a nice callback to just video games in general. A lot of these small
yeah,
artists, when it comes to making music, video games is like one of the main inspiration for it, and it's a
yeah.
very wonderful thing. It's
I'll
pretty
correct
great.
myself. It was the PS1
Oh,
opening.
PS1. I mean,
Yeah,
they're both
PS1
iconic though. They're
opening
both iconic.
menu.
Yeah, it was PS1. It was
Yeah,
PS1. Now that I
that
remember,
one.
yeah. Yeah,
Um,
those are both incredible like sounds to listen to
yeah,
when you turn on the console, as well as the don't forget the Xbox is one, like the original
yeah,
one, the GameCube. Oh my god, the GameCube's like intro music.
yeah.
So good, so fire.
Um, you know 070 Shake.
I don't think I know actually.
Um,
It's nothing from the top of my head.
so you've heard Ghost Town, right?
Ghost yes, yes.
Yeah. So
Actually,
she's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
singing, she's singing the on the hook.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. I know
070
now.
Shake.
Yeah, now I know. Now
Yeah,
I
but
know.
she has a song on the album she put out last year called Rocket Ship, and that gives you like video game vibes as well.
Yeah. You gotta link me that after this interview
Yeah, I
because like
will.
I need to
Yeah,
get hit. I need to get hit. But there's like
yeah,
a lot of like artists that just like reference video games like their music, and it's like getting like much more common as like the years go by, because you technically have like your artists who like talk about GTA, and like Call of Duty
Yeah.
sometimes, but then like when they get to like the more obscure stuff, it is very, very cool. Like
Yeah.
like even Mike, I think Mike said on one track it was like Super Smash Bros. I just got up to stage 4, and of course I picked Kirby. Like it was just so like subtle, but it's like if it's like one of those like if you play Smash, you know how Kirby is. Like you can tell, like you could tell the Smash game he was talking about, because Smash Melee, I'm pretty sure that was like the one game where like Kirby was really, really good, and then the rest of the games Kirby are just like mid. So it's like you could kind of tell there's like levels. No pun intended. There's like levels to the video game references too.
There is. Even Eternal Take
Oh
had,
yeah,
had
yeah.
some video game.
Oh, definitely. It had I think it's one of them sampled the Genesis game. I'm pretty sure.
I think so.
Yeah. I think You Better Move was like a whole like no,
Better
it didn't sample a
Move,
Genesis game. It sampled Microsoft Pinball. It's like the whole
That's
thing.
the
It
one.
was so great. It was
That's
so
the
great.
one.
That was like funny as hell. It's like one of those. It was like one of those if you know moments.
Yeah. A lot of people knew. A lot of people knew for sure.
Oh yeah.
Like certain, like for example, like Sonic, say like parts of a game where he might be collecting certain things.
Rings.
Then there's a sound effect that he's collecting rings, and
Oh
there's a sound effect
yeah.
that comes with it. Like even little details like that. It's something that would go over your head when you were just young playing them. But as you
get older,
take in more music and more sounds, you understand the importance of those minute details.
Sound effects and the small stuff. Especially like one example I want to put out is like Jet Set Radio. Like when it comes to the house scene, or like the like pretty much like the current like underground house scene, there's like a lot of people who take inspiration from the music of Jet Set Radio and the art style. Like especially there's this one artist that I really like his name's Dirty Bird. He goes by Gum, and like you could tell there's a lot of Jet Set Radio inspiration, and it's just amazing. It's just like wonderful when like a bunch of artists should take like games from a certain era and then just apply it to their craft in their own unique ways, or let's pay homage to them in like such like amazing methods in terms of sound. And it's just a wonderful thing. Like people are really starting to appreciate the importance of these games, especially fighting games. Like let's not even get started on fighting games like Tekken, Street Fighter, Guilty Gear. People are like just
Time Crisis.
Time Crisis. I need to play Time Crisis actually. I heard the music for Time Crisis 2 is pretty good.
So intense. Yeah. So would you want to make music for video games?
Yes, I would like to make music for video games. I want to like try like making music for like an indie game. I remember one time like me and my friends were just like talking. I think we were just talking on Discord, and like I have a chat where like it's pretty much like dedicated to like my music stuff. It's pretty cool. And they were talking about like, they want like I put in a track. It was for like a beat contest. It was like on another server, and they were like use synths, and I couldn't like think of any like major ideas. So I was like, how about I make something inspired by video games? And I put it in. Of course I lost. But then I showed it to my friends, and they were like, yo, like this could be like really, really good video game music. It's like I would love like for you to make music for like maybe like an indie game or something they were working on that they wanted to work on, because like I have a friend that is in college for like programming and stuff like that. I know jack about programming like at the time of this recording. Hopefully I'll be able to learn it at some point. We'll see. But like I would love to make indie game music. I like incorporate like not even just samples, but just like different types of synths. I don't have like a synthesizer yet. I don't have too much equipment yet. But once I get to that point, I really want to like dedicate time and effort to like not only like make music for like a video game, but just make it for like a game that people will remember for years to come. I've had friends who've like tried making video game music for people, but then the game itself wouldn't materialize, and they would just be sitting on like mountains of content. It's like it's really hard to like as a small producer, like it is very, very hard to put your name out there. It is very hard to just work on projects that will just like actually take off. Like you might be sending stuff to somebody, or you might be like talking to somebody about like video game music or just any sort of project, but then like it just doesn't take off the ground for like either reasons with like your own production or just like the situation or just what's going on in like the lives of others. And it's like it makes sense, but like it's just like a feeling is like, dang, like when am I gonna get something off the ground, you know? And I heard that's like a whole thing in like, you know, when it comes to making like video game music or just indie game music in general. It's like sometimes there just might be projects that just don't like get off the ground. It's like I want to work for, you know, something that will actually like, you know, be available for people to like play and like listen to on top of that. It's like that's like one of my like dreams. Actually, while we're on the topic of just like media in general, I would love to make music for an animated series, like cartoons and stuff like that, like anime just in general, or even something as small as like a Toonami promotion. I would love to like make music for stuff like that, you know, like right now I'm like watching a decent bit of cartoons, like I'm reading manga, watching anime on my free time, you know, among other things. And it's like I would really love to make music for like, you know, one of these like new Netflix cartoons that drop and like other types of things, you know. That's my main dream. This is one show named like called Hilda. It's like pretty much based on my like pretty much it's my Instagram profile picture. Like the girl in like, you know, the deer fox, that's what the animal's called, Twig. Like it's one of my favorite like cartoons in like recent memory, like next to Infinity Train and other types of shows. And I really want to make like just synth-based music for like that show in general, like because the vibe of it, the whole like atmosphere of it is just wonderful. And it's like I really want to try like, you know, implementing like just synth work and other types of things into like, you know, the show. I would love to work on the show, but I mean, I'm just like a tiny producer, like, you know, but anything's possible.
Yeah,
maybe
it's steps, right?
Oh yeah, there's steps to it, but at the same time, it's like sometimes the steps might not be as clear as people think they are. Because like, you know, like the main thing about being like a very small producer, like a very very tiny producer, is just trying to get attention for your music. I remember I was on Instagram, like I literally put in my story like, yo, like, you know, or I not even just my Instagram either. Like I'm in like this one server, you know, like I'm in the knowledge server, like I'm known as like Linux over there. And I put in, you know, like, hey, does anyone like want like free Bandcamp codes, like my projects? Because like I'm so desperate to like try to get people to just be like, hey, like, you know, this is me, this is my music, you know, I sound a lot better than you would think I would sound, you know, like considering how small I am. And like, you know, it's just hard to get attention because there's already like so many other people doing it. And it's like, it's not even like anyone's fault. It's just how it goes. And like, I've been thinking about like selling beats and, or just like promoting myself by like, you know, putting like beats up for sale on YouTube to try to get some type of footing. And you know, I just don't have like a entire plan to grow because like the main thing about me making music is me having fun and you know just me enjoying the fact that I can like make like something that I can remember for years to come. Like I dropped like 2 albums and a single EP, and then not to mention like a mini tape that I made based off of Infinity Train because I love that cartoon just so much. And it gained some attention, but like not anything to just like write home about, but the whole thing is just like not necessarily try to focus on like the attention you gain, just like try to focus on like what you're learning from it and like you know how you're going to improve over time. I try my hardest not to focus on attention, but sometimes you're just going to need it to try to like work with like some artists that have like stuff to their name, you know what I mean? Like like I remember there's
a lot of the time it's just about building with the people that are actually gravitating towards it in that period of time as well, rather than thinking about everyone else that isn't. It's like the guys that are actually the people that are actually engaging with what you're doing. Okay, how do I build that connection with them that's so strong that when other people come, it's just they can easily just fit into this world that you're building around what you're creating.
That is true. Yeah, that is really, really true. Like when you work with somebody that has like a similar energy as you or has like a similar goal, not even just like a similar sound, but just like a similar type of work ethic, even down to interests. It just like blends together like peanut butter and jelly, You know, like when you work with somebody that like carries certain aspects that you have, it can like lead to a more fun and engaging working experience. Because you know, you might be working with somebody, you might have like two completely different interests, like mesh with each other, you know, or one person might be like, hey, you know, like this beat is like straight, was like the straight for me, you know, like nobody else can have it. And then like my whole thing is like, well, this has luckily this hasn't happened to me yet, but like my whole mindset is like, you know, hey, like it's still like my work. So it's like I still want to like be able to like show other people out there because like there can be situations where you might give a track or you might give a beat to somebody and they just might not never use it. Or even if they do use it, like, you know, it just doesn't feel like, you know, you have your own say in some cases. Luckily I haven't like, you know, dealt with that type of deal, but like, you know, it's a thing that goes on in like, you know, the small underground producing community. And then just like there are moments where like when you sample a track, this is very rare, this is very very rare, but when it happens it's funny, but it's also like you just feel you don't even have to like, I don't even feel some type of way about it. It's just funny. It's like there are moments where like you make a track, right, and then like you have it all set down, you have it like chopped and everything, you have it mixed and everything, but you just sit on it. And then a few months later you listen to like an artist or something, and then you hear a track with a similar beat that sounds damn near the exact same. And it's like you don't even, and you didn't even put it out there yet, you didn't even put your like version out there, it just ever so happens to be like the same coincidence. Like, dang, I gotta get better ideas. Stuff like that's happened before, and it's pretty funny, and like nobody's like at any sort of fault here. It's just like a little funny
You're on the
coincidence, but it's
same
like,
wavelength,
yeah, yeah,
similar
like we're on
wavelength.
the same wavelength, same wavelengths, or
Yeah,
similar wavelength. Like,
yeah.
you know, like one artist might like, you know, chop something, but then like another artist might chop something in a very similar pattern. It's like, wait, I had an idea for that, but like, you know, instead of just being like, oh, he stole my shit, no, it's just like, just you just gotta realize that you both are like on the same like or similar wavelength in terms of like music production. That's the one thing about like underground, like, you know, one chop, you might have like a chop that sounds so fire, but then like, you know, maybe like somewhere like 15 states away, somebody might have had like the exact same chop, and then they might have just like been more successful in giving it to somebody. And it's just like sometimes you can be like, dang, you know, kind of sucks, but I just have to get bigger. In situations like that, I just do more digging, and I just like, you know, I just do what I got to do. Like the main thing I really want to do is I want to like, you know, just be present. I want people to know like, you know, that I I make beats, you know, I produce, but like I want to be like, you know, in my own, not even in my own wave, but just like I want people to know, like, you know, hey, like I made this. Like you could tell, like, you
Like
know
a
how like
signature,
Madlib, yeah,
a
like you know how like
signature style.
Madlib doesn't have much ad libs to his or his he doesn't have as much tags to like his music, because like when you listen to something that's made by Madlib, like just give it like a few seconds, you can instantly tell. Or you know something
Like
by
Pharrell has
Knowledge or
the
something.
the
Pharrell,
four beat
yeah,
count. Yeah,
yep. You can tell, like, you know, if it was made by Pharrell or Tyler the Creator or Kanye West, like, especially like Kanye West, and even like Jay
Timberland
Dilla
as well.
Yeah, Timbaland
Yeah,
or New Jabez, rest in peace. Like, you know, both of them, Jay Dilla, New Jabez, like you could tell that it's their music, it's their sound, you know, and because of that, they really like put a legacy. They put their legacy on just the entire landscape of the production scene, like the music production scene, whether it's like hip hop or just underground or lo-fi. And like even with MF Doom, recipes, like he didn't have any tag, and you could just still tell that it was his, like, you know, it was his work and that it was his chops. It was just, you know, it's
yeah,
one of the greats, one of the greats for sure in terms of music production. And don't even get me started on rapping. Like he's one of the best rappers. He was one of the best artists of all time. To this day, in my opinion.
yeah, yeah. Even like the Neptune sound, you know,
Yeah, you
you
know, some
know.
tunes. So you know it's them.
And even if it wasn't like there
So
were
that might have been
certain
inspired.
exactly, yeah, exactly to that extent. So like getting into making music for video games, how are you looking to do that?
Well, honestly, I don't have like a straightforward plan for it yet. I just do what I want when it comes to like trying to make video game music, because like that's not my main thing. My main thing is like, making underground beats or just making beats in general that like sound really nice and that I could put out there. Maybe sometimes making remixes, making like tributes to like, media that I like, just all different types of beats. Like I think since I switched over to FL20, I've made close to 400 something beats. But like I want to make a lot more that I could just like sit there and be like, yeah, this is gonna age well. Because I have some tracks that like really that probably will age well that I haven't like, put out yet. Because there's a whole thing. It's like there's no rule to like how much music you can put out regardless of your size. But it's like for me, I just get like, one thing I do like get scared of is like, hey, what if I put out like a bunch of music and then just like nobody listens to it or nobody like knows I exist? But it's like, again, you're not necessarily doing it for like the publicity. You're just doing it because you want something to be proud of. And
Yeah,
like,
and you're not doing it for the short term as well.
you're not doing this for,
you're in it
you
for
like
the
when you're producing something,
for the long
when
term.
you're producing music, you're doing it for the long term. Yeah. It's like when MF Doom passed away, because remember, like he was one of my favorite artists of all time. When MF Doom passed away, I just gave myself a promise, like I'm gonna do this for the long term. Like I was always thinking like maybe I'm just gonna do this like as a side thing as I get older, but then I'm just like, you know what? Might as well do this for the long term. See what happens. Sort of my mindset now.
Yeah, people pick things up quicker than others.
Hmm.
So
For sure.
some people get onto things later down the line. And that's okay. It just means that they were part of your journey at a certain stage.
Some point, yeah.
Everyone will be part of your journey at different points in time.
Yeah, like the main thing about like producing music is that you're trying to make music to not only satisfy others, but to satisfy yourself, Like the music I listen to, the music I make is sometimes the music I listen to. I'm not even gonna hold you. Like I just sit there like, like on my desk and I'm just like bumping to some of like the music that I didn't even like put out yet. I was like, damn, that's so crazy. When is the world gonna hear this shit? You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I'm not gonna say like, I make better stuff than like others, but I want to say that like I can like, try to get to like other people's level in terms of like music production. It's a very kind of like fun, almost like a fun game in a sense, because like not too many people are like doing, the similar things as like, I'm doing, at least from where I'm from. Like I don't know too many producers out where I'm at, like maybe like a few, but like you notice that they're trying to like, they're trying to get their foot down too. They're trying to like, take a sound that they know and that they're familiar with and try to see if they can like, do it on with their own, like kind of with their own thing. Mm-hmm. And that's pretty much how I like started. When I restarted making music, it was like 2019. Like I loved Nicholas Craven, I loved Madlib, just stuff that didn't require drums, because at the time I didn't know how to like do drum based stuff. I didn't know how to like set up like drum patterns and all that types of stuff. So what I would do, and this I'm like if you know me or if you've heard of me before, you might have heard the story, but I would go to Sony Vegas because that was like one of the only things I was like familiar with when it came to like audio. And I would like take a sample, or I would just like take some type of audio and I would just chop it up and make a track just like that. And pretty much I went with that for a few months, and it didn't like it, I don't want to say like it worked out, but it helped me gain some notoriety, and it helped me like understand, okay, so that's the fundamentals of chopping. Now I actually got to learn how to use like, or now I actually got to learn how to like put it all together and like actually make like full form tracks out of it. Because at the time, I would have some friends, I would show them my stuff, was like, oh, that's all right. But like, not too many people listen to just like, sample-based loops, at least where I'm from. Like probably like, many different types of states, people are just like listening to that type of stuff all the time, and just like rapping on that type of stuff all the time. Yeah. So once I was able to like implement drums and stuff, and people were finally starting to, like get going to my music, and, it's just when you sit there and just think, it's like, am I really like, you got to make sure the main thing is like, you don't have to cater to others. You can cater to yourself. That's the most important thing when it comes to music. If you just follow other people's sound and try to do that long term without wanting to like, be original, or not even wanting to be original, without like putting your own spin on it, or your own like, your own tone on the thing, without like it feeling like it's yours, it kind of feels more like a job to sort of like,
Meet
gain more
everybody's needs.
attention. Wait, what's up?
To like meet everybody's needs. You're constantly like meeting everybody's needs.
You're meeting
than
everybody's
saying,
needs instead of your own needs. It's like, but if what you do, like in a perfect world, if what you like to do is what other people like listening to, it's like a perfect scenario, because you can just have fun with your music and then everyone else will like it, But if you just like follow other people's stuff without like having the soul to like, do what you want to do, what's the point? At least like when I was chopping samples, at least it was stuff that I wanted to do. I didn't want to just like, follow everyone else's footsteps. Even if like, like some people were like, this chop this is mid, I'm at least glad you're making music, all that type of stuff. Like, at least it was something that I wanted to do. At least it wasn't like, something I was like going out of my way to just like follow or copy directly, or just stuff like that. You know what I mean? And, just people have to put more soul to this.
I think like taking people on a journey, and even if they're not ready to go on to the next thing as well. So say you want to go into a different, you might want to go into like a different sound, or you want to go into a different direction, but your audience aren't ready yet. Sometimes
that happens all the time.
Sometimes you have to like make
Ease
them go
in
where you're going. Otherwise, if you don't, then you won't really evolve.
Yep.
They may not understand that in that moment, because they want the sound that makes them feel how they felt when this happened, or this particular moment. But when you're taking them in the direction that you're taking them into, you're actually evolving. And they just may not be
ready
at a certain part of their life where they're ready to receive it. They may connect with it later down the line.
You're talking about Jesus. You are talking about Jesus without bringing up Jesus' name.
You could put Jesus in that. You could put
Jesus like that album. When that first came out, like I was kind of rocking with it, but it wasn't like Kanye's old stuff. I would listen to like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, like Late Registration, especially like Graduation. That was one of my favorite Kanye projects.
Yeah, that's my personal.
Graduation is so good. Like it aged super well. But moving on. So when Yeezus came out, people were just so like jarred. Like the sound was so jarring to people because it just wasn't like what Kanye was doing before. And because of that, people didn't like appreciate it until much later in time. The most important example from Yeezus
had a similar reaction too.
Yeah.
808 Heartbreaks. Yeah.
Oh yeah, 808. Okay, 808. Yeah, I did have a similar reaction, but then as time went on, people just appreciated the songs. It's like, oh, this shit's timeless. It was like, you weren't ready for that yet. Bound to, oh my God, Bound to. So pretty much when it first came out, right? It would use like singing. It used like a whole like piano section of the track, and like it was just mainly just like a simple flip or a simple loop, with just bars that in some cases were really funny. But when it first came out, some people, like most Kanye, like a good chunk of Kanye fans rocked with it, but you could play it to the average person and they would be like, oh, what is this? What is this like, random old sound with like some random lyrics? Oh, this is like weird. I'm not down for this, right? When the original music video came out, like the media shitted all over it. TMZ was shitting all over it, and it got like a bunch of dislikes because they're like, oh, this music video looks cheesy. People weren't ready for that type of change yet. And now we're in 2020, like years after Yeezus came out, and people are listening to the song all over the place. People
Yeah.
are talking about it on TikTok, Instagram, you know, making
Yeah.
memes out of it. And I think for the first time in like years, the music video actually has more likes than dislikes. So you could tell that at
Yeah.
the time, people just weren't ready for this type of stuff
Yeah.
yet. People were
But that's
not
the
ready.
thing. Yeah, but that's the thing. People that innovate, they will give you things that you're not ready for, and they will disrupt your existing taste level. So
Yep, yep,
if you have a certain taste level, they're gonna disrupt it. They're gonna shake it up, and you might not, connect with it in that moment because you're
yep,
still
yep,
down with whatever the existing thing is.
yep, yep.
But
Like,
that's I think that's fine if the initial reaction is that way because um people don't really respond to change that well anyway.
oh yeah, nowadays people do not respond to change.
Yeah.
They don't. It's hard to like, you know, to think about doing a shift in direction, you know, when it comes to music, especially as a small artist. It is because like Kanye West is literally Kanye West. He made like a big change like that and like was able to get away with it in the end. His fans appreciated it like then and now. People are actually starting to appreciate it now. And like, you know, the whole Yeezus era is like being remembered as like a really good era looking back. It was
Yeah.
just like an era that we weren't ready for.
Yeah.
You know, let's say that Kanye was like at 20K listeners or something like that. Didn't make too much money and like was making stuff like graduation, late registration, but with a smaller footing. Let's say he dropped Yeezus with that same small footing. And with his own fans just like looked at this like, oh, this is I'm not ready for this yet. This is like weird. I'm not ready. It probably would have just went into obscurity and not too many people would like know about it to this day. It's like it's hard to be able to make a shift in direction when it comes to music. But it's one at least it's one there's one good thing out of it. If you do make a shift in direction and you know you have people who are willing to accept that change, those are going to be long-term fans. Those are going to be
Absolutely.
people who will listen to your stuff for years on end. There's like, you know, there's this one artist, like his name's Twami, like he produces like, you know, all these beats. And like there was a shift in like the beats that we would make. Like it went from a lot more like a grimy, lo-fi, you know, SP404 type of sound that I really loved to like a more cleaner sound. And while like and the change was like really dramatic. It wasn't like dramatic, but it was like you could tell that there was a change. But you can tell that like some of the people that used to listen to Twami, you could tell like, you know, the people had to get used to this change. But once they got used to this change, like, you know, the fans are like really, really loyal to him, support him consistently. And now like he's getting deals and all that stuff from like different artists, you know, other people are like rapping on his stuff now. It's like in situations like those, if they work out, they can work out really, really well.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is that like if I make a shift in direction in any sort of case, I feel like I could be losing fans. I could be losing people that used to listen to my music and just like, you know, just used to rock with me. He's like, oh, he doesn't make the same music anymore, so I might as well just go support like a different type of artist. You know, it's very hard. It's very hard to get support. Like, you
Yeah.
know, it's very hard.
Yeah. I think you should just go with wherever you are in your life at that moment. You should be creating things that reflect that. That's the best way to have longevity.
That is the most
Have you heard
important.
of Malcolm Gladwell?
Sounds familiar, but I'm
Have
gonna
you
say
heard of
no.
Outliers, the book Outliers?
I've actually I've heard of it, but I never read it.
Okay. So he talks about like the whole 10,000 hours. Yeah, you're familiar with that theory, right? The 10,000 hours to reach
Thousand
like
hours,
certain level of mastery, you have to put in like 10,000 hours.
1,000 hours. It's like what
Yeah.
you're doing.
But basically, he was speaking about the Outliers book, and he was saying that I think it was a few years ago. He was saying that he doesn't really live by the principles he wrote in that book anymore because he's onto something else. And people were like, "Whoa, hold on a second. Like
You
what?
created this, and now you're
Yeah,
like
how
getting
can
away
you?"
from it. What are you doing?
Exactly. But then he was like, "Yeah, that I was in a certain part of my life when I created that, but now I'm in a different stage of life. So certain people that um certain people may gravitate towards outliers now because they're in a certain stage of life where that information is relevant to their situation.
Mm,
So he was saying that with the current book he was putting out, that's a reflection of where he is. So
mm.
he has
Just
to
a
keep
reflection of where you
creating.
are.
He has to keep creating based on where he is in his life, and then trust that people will connect with whatever he puts out as their lives catch up with whatever that information is. Like Jay-Z is not where he is in his life currently where he was when he made like the Black album. You know, like he's in different every album he was in a different part of his life, different stage of his life. And those albums reflected that. And that's what allowed him to have that longevity. But the moment
Especially
you
with 444, like that, you could tell like
exactly see he
he
was
was
in
in
a
like a
certain
very
part of his
different
life
he was
during
in a
that
very
moment.
different part of his life at that
If
moment.
he kept making music the way he made um music on the blueprint, he would have it would have or it would have just he would have just hit a wall,
Yep.
you
Yeah.
know.
Taking a
So
shift
I
in
think you
direction
have
is
to
very
have I think
important.
creators have to have the courage to say, you know what, I have to take my audience on a journey. Some of them may not gravitate towards whatever it is initially because they may just not be where they are in their life at that moment may not be in sync with whatever I'm putting out. But over time, they'll appreciate that I gave them a piece of different stages of my life as I went along. You know?
Taking that whole concept of taking like somebody for a journey. That's I think that's kind of what's sort of
I mean,
going on with
Kanye
my
does that.
music. Oh, Kanye does that,
Kanye
and
does
like
that. Michael Jackson does
he is
that.
in a master class. Like they are both
David Bowie
like
did
Michael
that.
Jackson, David Bowie. Yep, they are all in a
David
master
did that.
class of taking people for a journey. Especially David Bowie. Literally, he
Yeah.
did the whole thing from life to death. Like it's very eerie and in some cases like very depressing at the situation, but he was able to
Yeah.
do it like so beautifully,
Yeah.
like from
I
beginning
think,
to end.
yeah, sorry, what was you about to say?
No, that's what I was gonna say.
Oh, I was gonna say Young Thug from a visual point of view. If you look at each album he's put out, there's definitely like David Bowie vibes. You know, when you
Oh
look
yeah.
at his aesthetic, his visuals
Yep.
from each
Yep.
album, he's definitely reinvented himself. Well,
Yep.
he's one of the ones that have reinvented themselves out of the artists that debuted last decade. He's probably reinvented himself with each album. Probably the best. You could say Tyler as well.
Tyler
But
is a
Frog
great
as well. Definitely
example.
Young Frog as well.
Young Thug,
Sure.
amazing at that too. One thing I would like to say is like because of my size and because I'm still like learning while I'm like doing this whole thing, I can say that like while the journey isn't as, in my opinion, while the journey isn't as refined as like Young Thug or Kanye, like I feel like for my beats, it's like the journey that I'm bringing people on is like you could tell that there's growth. Like right now, I'm at that point where it's like, okay, so I used to be mid, now I'm like getting to a point where I'm actually like getting pretty decent. But as time goes on, what I hope for myself is that once I get to the point where it's like, yes, I'm actually like I can make really, really good stuff. I can effectively take people on a journey throughout different, like, points of my life and make music that based on what I'm feeling. There are just moments where like I'm sitting down, I feel I don't know, I feel kind of empty and I just go in and I just make a beat just just based on like how I'm feeling in that moment. I do that a lot now. Back then I could just like, just chop a sample because I feel like it, but now I can actually like put emotion in it. There are moments where I'm just doing something else. And even like when I hear a sample or just hear something, I am like mentally making like a song in my head. And it's like I can go back to like, my house and be like, okay, so how can I actually put this, on like, on an actual track?
Yeah.
How can I actually do that? And at like at certain points it works, at other points it doesn't work. But it's all about trial and error. It's all about trial and error.
How important are visuals in relation to like
Visuals?
the sound that you're creating?
Oh, that's a great question. So typically what I do is that if I post like a track, I try to accompany it with some visual that either gives off like a vibe to the track or it complements it based on like something I like, based off of something that I might enjoy. Like for example, like my latest track like that I put out, it was Ida's guitar. Ida's a character off of the Owl House. And like I literally like just watched that episode. I was like, wait, I have a track that sounds like similar, or there's like a point in it where it sounds like, it's giving off like a vibe from the episode. And then I just went in, I just like tweaked the track, just fixed it up, cleaned it up a bit, put it out, put in like a little visual to it, and then put it on my Instagram and TikTok. And funny thing enough, I put it on TikTok and I think it got like 1,000 something views. And on Instagram, it got a few, it got like almost 100 views. It got like some likes, but then on TikTok, it's like so many likes and all that type of stuff. Maybe it's because it's related to, a cartoon that a bunch of people are watching,
It's a
but
combination.
it's a combination. That's pretty much that's pretty much where my visuals are at the moment. It's like I combine the things I like with the vibe of the track. Like literally, that's what my YouTube channel is, and that's pretty much like what my channel is. Like I can post like an instrumental, like maybe remake an instrumental that because it's not like officially out there yet, for like a different artist. Like I could post like a Kanye instrumental that I remade and then just like put in visuals based on like something that I'm into at that moment. And it's just like a good combination. It's a really good combination. And I might continue to like keep doing that, but definitely in the future, I want to be able to like make my own visuals like 100% of the time. Make my own animations to go with like tracks or album work and
Yeah.
all that type of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I think being you said that there's barriers, like it's difficult to get into the animation, like doing the sound for animation. I think
Oh yeah, there's
if you're
barriers.
also part of creating the visuals for the animation plus the sound, then there's a lot more um opportunity to like accelerate the progression of that and putting it out, getting things out there more because you're part of more than one aspect of it.
Yep. Yep. You said that perfectly, actually. Yeah. It's like there's like different types of aspects to it. One thing that I do want to add in terms of like, just making different types of music is just like one thing that I've definitely learned is to see like other people's success as like a way to help you push forward. There are definitely some moments where you can feel discouraged. You can look at like like I'm 19 and like you can see like somebody that might be the same age as you doing like some my beautiful dark twisted fantasy level stuff at that age, and you feel like maybe I should quit
That should
music
be
or
me.
something like that. It's like that should have been me, not him. It's not fair, like type shit, and like but you can just like if you look at moments like that as like almost like a stepping stone, it's like okay, so this is what you could do, but you just got to try harder. So just try harder, and you don't necessarily have to follow that same path. You could make your own My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy type of project, but in your own way without like it being related to like anything that was a thing before.
Yeah. And it's like you're running your own race, so you're not
Yep.
running the same race as that other
you
person.
you are not running the
You're going
same
through your
race.
own development through your own journey,
Yep.
and that's that's what's most important, you know?
Indeed, like it is very important to understand that while you're not necessarily in a race, you're just like all like running with your own laps. You keep track of your own lap time. You keep track of how many laps you've ran. It's just that there might be some people who have done it like faster than you, but you are like all on like a similar path. A path to be able to show the world your craft and like effectively just show others like, hey, I can do stuff. I can like, I can make animation, or I can make video games, or I can draw, I can make music, like I can sing, I can do this, that, you know what I mean? Like just getting to a point where the world knows, not even like the world knows their craft, but the world like knows how much effort and time you put into that craft. That's like when you get there. Like one thing about Kanye that I really that like, you know, some people might hate, but I'm definitely cool with his whole creative process when it comes to like making albums. Now I know we're both sad that Donna didn't drop yet. You know, it's you know, it's something. But his whole rollout for the album,
Yeah.
just having two shows,
Yes.
having a whole like live stream, showing the creative process, showing people that he's collaborated with the whole
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
it's just a very, very like awesome vibe. The whole
Yeah.
clothing line, him
Yeah.
dropping Gap stuff at the same
Mhm.
time, making extra coin. Because Kanye has said at one point that like, you don't make shit from music. You make shit from actually like doing things related to the music,
Yeah.
clothing, working for others, having your music in like movies and stuff like that,
Exactly.
etc. That's
So the
what makes
music,
money.
exactly, the music becomes the thing you use to sell other things.
You use music to sell other things. That's why
Mhm.
like Yeezy sell out every time in an
Yeah.
instant. That's why like clothing. That's why like people borrow designs they borrow design elements from Kanye stuff. I remember
Yeah.
Kids See Ghost when he dropped like the collection for that. You notice like you see all these pages that try to redo some of the Kids See Ghost
Yeah.
artwork and
That's
other types of
that's
stuff.
that's one of the great things on
Yeah, it's like that's
on
when
the
you know
internet
you've
is
influenced.
seeing people recreate
It's like they either recreate it or like I
or they
appreciate
add
this
to it. They
especially. They
further it.
add to it, or they even add, they like even have a own twist to it. It's like you look at
Yeah.
it, it's not Kids See Ghost directly, but you can tell it's inspired by it.
This
Stuff
is
like that,
yeah.
artwork like
Yeah.
that. Like one of my inspirations when it comes to like art and stuff is Blue Boy. Blue Boy has worked with
Okay. Yeah.
Kanye in the
Yeah.
past. Blue Boy is so like fucking fire. Like his art is just so, it is very unique. You could tell, like you could look at a piece like, oh yeah, this is made by Blue Boy. I think Blue Boy's actually on a show on
Yeah.
HBO
On
Max at the
HBO.
moment. Yeah, I need to watch. I need to watch it. I need to watch it. From what I've heard, it's pretty great. I actually own a few pieces from Collection 5, and I'm waiting for Collection 5 Reloaded. Like he's teased it in the past. I'm waiting for that to drop. Actually, I think it already has dropped. Yeah. So I'm just waiting for the next collection. But
Yeah.
Blue Boy definitely is like a pioneer of seeing, not even just like taking inspiration from others, but just like using just using his own ideals and using like his own like talents to sort of blend in a world of creativity to like other aspects like clothing, phone cases, like just designs and stuff like that. Even one of like Blue Boy's like one of Blue Boy's like favorite pieces, from what I can tell, is like I think he has like these like easy slides. And I think
Yeah.
he said this on an Instagram live. He had these easy slides. He drew like his own designs on them. And just from doing that, random like companies made bootleg Yeezy slides with that
With
exact
those
design.
similar
Like
designs.
that's when you know, even though it sucks, that's when you know that you've like influenced like
Yeah.
more than just the people. You
Yeah.
influence like companies that want to hop
Companies.
on trends. You influence
Yeah.
companies. It's like you know,
Yeah.
like one day I want to make clothing, or one day I want to make like a shoe design or something like that. Like that would be pretty cool. Like among like a lot
And
of
you can
different
use
types
your
of
music to
things.
sell it.
I could use my music to sell. It's like I've thought about like making like clothing designs like based off of like my album work, or not even just out of my cover, but just like alternate designs. Like you can look at this like, okay, you can tell this is from the Tall Dude EP era, or you could tell it's from the Beats from the Right Mind era, and all that types of stuff. I'm already
Yeah.
giving myself errors, and I don't even have like I
Hey,
don't even have a huge following. I'm already giving myself errors.
you have to create errors.
Real,
You have
real.
to educate your audience on your errors before
Of
they
course.
even realize that you have
That it was
errors.
an era,
Yeah.
you gotta tell us like, okay, so this was the
You gotta
Tales from
tell
the
them
DMV era,
your errors.
real, yeah. Like at
So
this
they
point I already
understand
have
better.
errors, so yep.
Yeah. Going back to like the Dunder rollout, you know why there's pushback on this method of rollout?
Yeah.
Because music fans, they want the final version in one go. They do not
Yep.
want work in progress versions of the music leading up
They
to the
don't.
final version. They don't want
They
that.
don't.
Whereas like in other spaces like in technology and design, this is like nothing new. You
Oh
have
yeah,
like
it is not. It's not
MVPs,
anything new.
you have prototypes, you have public prototyping. This happens all the time, but in music, there's pushback because they want the final version. Don't give me anything leading up to it. But I think
Just yeah.
him doing it this way is like making everyone feel connected to the actual development process of of the album. So
Yep.
if the album drops, we don't know. If
It
the
might
album does
drop.
drop,
It probably is gonna at this point. It's probably gonna drop because the iTunes page is up. But like,
yeah,
and apparently some radio stations in other states like they have been playing some tracks, final versions of tracks from
okay,
Donda. But
okay,
if the album's gonna come out, this is and if this is planned, if
yeah,
if Donda being delayed, if this
mhm,
was planned by Kanye, this might be smart in the long run because allegedly he made a couple $1 million off of the
he made
clothing.
like seven, yeah,
$7 million just
mhm,
off of the clothing. That is more than what some people make with their albums as a whole. And the
yeah,
album isn't even out yet.
yeah.
It
So
isn't even out
see
yet. Like
how
it's
the
been in
music is
production. It's been in
see
production
how the
since like
music has
2020.
already been used to sell the
Yep.
merch.
Yep.
The
Yeezy
music
Gap
that we
too.
just heard, you know. So
Like the hype just like got onto people, like, and now like he made a whole bag off of that, just off of
yeah,
the rollout. That's like, like Kanye, I'm pretty sure Kanye said on his own thing is like, I drop when I want to.
yeah.
And it still holds true to this day. Like even with Life of Pablo is a great example of this. Like when Life of
Yeah,
Pablo
that was
initially
that
came out,
rollout. Yeah, that rollout is like the blueprint for this rollout. It's like,
yep, it was
yeah,
the blueprint.
people are like almost okay with they can digest this rollout because they were exposed to the Life of Pablo rollout.
Brother Jesus King
There was way
rollout.
more backlash with the Life of Pablo rollout, I feel like.
Okay, there was backlash, but like at the end, we ended up getting like a
Yeah,
great
definitely.
project. We ended up getting a great project, and like I was patient for it. I was there when like Kanye was doing like the Yeezy giveaway on like his Twitter during the Life of Pablo era. It was like, guess the name of the album. It was like it went from Swish to Wave, So Help Me God, all that
Yeah.
types
See,
of stuff.
you see the entire development process. And
Yep.
when the album drops, then all of the dots connect.
Not a
You
lot of and
connect
not a
all of
lot of
the
artists
dots.
do that.
Exactly. Exactly. But going back to music being used to sell other things, Beats was sold to Apple based on using the entire Interscope catalog to sell beats. Most Interscope artists at the time during that period when they were like building up to like sell it, like the path towards selling it to Apple, most of the Interscope artists had a Beats product in their video in some way
Yep,
or form.
yep. They
Whether
had the
it was
headphones,
whether it
pills,
was disguised, whether it was like blatant, it was somewhere in there.
they would
So
like put
that's what they
even
did.
like a
They
logo.
used the Interscope catalog, music catalog, to sell beats.
It worked out. Now Beats is
Will I
over.
am even said that. That's what they
Oh
did.
yeah, yep, yep. They used music to sell beats. Like whether the music was good or whether it was just like a product of its time or not something that people look at. It's like you can tell that they used this to sell headphones, and it worked. But like it's
What?
crazy because like a company like Apple, which was bigger than Beats at the time, and like
Yeah.
now is owned, and now like
Yeah.
Beats is owned by them.
Mhm.
It went from a status symbol to now just like a casual brand of headphones
Yeah.
because somehow like Apple was able to take some of the technology from like the Beats headphones. They implemented their own technology from it, but they're literally Apple. Like the AirPod Maxes, which are like sort of like I want to say like a true successor to like the Beats Studio Pros because they have similar technology. Those are $549. So now if you like see somebody with them on the street or whatever, like you're like, damn, like that guy has money, and there's no branding on it. But then you see like somebody with like Solo Pros or Studio Pros, like, oh yeah, they're Beats, like they're cool headphones. Apple literally bought the company to bring its status symbol from like here to like here. to boost their like, which low key, if that's what they did, that was smart as hell.
Yeah. So they kind
Not
of
only did Dr. Dre make a bag, they just removed like the whole like, oh, this is priceless. Like beats are priceless. To like, and now it's just like that, you know?
Yeah. Let's talk about. So you did the voiceover for this podcast,
Oh yeah, oh
and you
yeah,
did the music
yep,
for the
yep,
podcast as well.
yep. I did.
Let's talk about that briefly.
Yeah,
Let's talk about how that came about.
oh yeah. So yeah, I think like how it all came about. I think like you talked about like your whole Creatr Waves like podcast idea, and I thought it would be just like a good way to just like, look, you know what, let me work for somebody. Let me help somebody with like their idea, their vision. Let's see how like this all comes together. Like even if I have to take like a little bit of time, I don't care. Like as long as like some people know that I'm like kind of serious about this, like I'm willing to do it. And because of that, I literally went into FL Studio. I think when you asked, like I came up with like so many ideas for like the intro. We had like the Sonic almost Jet Set Radio style like intro. Then we had like me just playing like playing like chords and stuff. Like it was almost like a bubbly type of deal to like just something simple.
Yeah.
And it's like you just like you're hearing like the music or just like stuff from it, and you're like, oh, so this is like music that was already made before, but then the sound effect is there, and it's like very like small and interesting. Like that sound effect, it was originally like something like this big, and then it took a while, but then it just got something like this, just like a little sound effect. But the transition from like something big to something small was a very, very interesting, and honestly, looking back, was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, because I heard Tell Him Something. So you're the instrumental that you did.
Oh yeah, that track that I dropped that like a year ago. That was
I heard that and I was like, yeah, I have to use that.
Yeah, it's like
it's something about
that. It's slept on.
Yeah, something about it. I have to use that. So then we used that, and then I wanted to do something where there was a voiceover. Again, it goes back to video games. Like I wanted it to be something like not the EA games voiceover,
like EA
something
games
where
challenge everything.
Exactly. Where there's like a voiceover that leads to the actual game menu setup. So I just wanted something like that, and we was figuring out, okay, what can you say? What do you say?
And it ended up being Creatr Waves not loading.
Creatr Waves not loading.
Yeah, that's how it materialized.
Exactly. And then also the visualizer. So at the beginning of the podcast, the visual podcast, you see the Creatr Waves visualizer. And that came about from me thinking about like playing Sega games.
Sonic.
And the loading page, maybe there being like a flash or just being some transitional visual that leads to like the actual game. So then you put like a visual, you put like a flash effect on that. Then the outro was inspired by Pharrell's That Girl video.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember.
It was inspired. Yeah,
at the end of the video where Laura London speaking to him, she's like naming all of the girls in his phone. She walks off, then he looks at the camera directly, then it just like closes off, like the screen closes off and has like a certain sound effect, like a blink sound effect.
Yep,
That was the inspiration for like the outro.
That was the inspiration for the outro by far. But then it was actually like mixed in with like a little bit of notes like Sega Genesis and stuff like that to it.
Exactly.
Like, it sounded like it was from the Sega Genesis itself.
Exactly. And this was cool. This was like 2 a.m. in the morning my time.
Oh yeah,
you had messaged me on Discord.
Yeah, because time zones are crazy. Time zones are weird.
Yeah. So we just quickly went over that. But for the video essays as well, the first video essay I put out, I used one of your instrumentals on your Tool Dude EP.
Also
So
the
that was So the Expedition.
yeah, that was an outro track.
Yeah, that one. I like beats that are dreamy.
Oh yeah,
Make me,
that was inspired. That the whole idea of it was like it was inspired by like like Alchemist, just people that make like dreamy stuff. It was like I sort of put it all together, but added my own tone to it, and it was like it's a very wonderful track. Like that's one of those tracks that are gonna age really, really well in my discography.
And there were others on there where I was like, damn, that's sick as well. This is sick. Yeah. But it was this one, there's just a certain turning point within the beat where it just elevates, and it's like it already makes you feel like your mind is just elevating. Your mind is like
that's why it's named Expedition.
Like
your mind's going on an expedition.
Yeah, exactly. Your mind is just going on a journey. That's what it feels like. Exactly. So that's why I wanted that as the intro, part of the intro for the video.
Without a doubt, yeah. And I really appreciate you using my music in like the podcast and stuff like that, because like people can listen to this like, yo, what is this? And then they'll just look it up and like, oh, so that's where it came from. And it all sort of like blends together,
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like it's sort of like the background person like actually like showing himself on the podcast that he's working on. Just like it's really awesome.
Yeah. And that's the thing in this era of the internet, is like it's figuring out how to integrate. If you're like you produce music, so how do you integrate your music in certain mediums that people can then digest, and then that becomes the pathway to them getting more into other things you do, or more things you do. Exactly. So it's just figuring
entry point in a way.
It's the entry point. Exactly. So what does creativity mean to you?
What does creativity? That's a great question.
Let's end it there. Let's end it at that.
Yeah, let's end it there. Mm-hmm. Creativity. The idea of creativity is just like using your head, your instinct, putting forth your ideas and just showing them out. Not only just showing them out to the world, but we're refining them in front of the world, showing people that you're not just there to be the same person as everyone else. It's you're putting your own like mind, your own spin on things, or you're just making something completely original and just like having the confidence to go and tell the world like, hey, this is who I am. I'm taking something that might have been like something in my head, like a simple idea, and then just spreading it out and then creating a world out of it. Kanye, he started making beats like every day, in his room, and now like he's one of the richest like Black people out there. Blue Boy started off like drawing in high school, and now like his clothing brand's up. All those started off as like ideas like hey, should I give this a shot? And honestly, if we're being realistic, sometimes being creative pays off, but other times it doesn't. But just being able to be creative in general is very important. Creativity is taking what you have in your mind and just like spreading it out there in a way that you can look and see like, hey, this is wonderful, this is great. And then just seeing if people want to take it in. And even if they don't want to take it in, at least you had the courage to step forth and put out your ideas and make sure that they don't even have to make sense. Your ideas don't have to make sense at all. Like a lot of people there's a common misconception. It's like, okay, your idea has to make sense. Your drawing has to make sense. It doesn't have to make sense. No, it could just be like what you feel like doing. And even then, the fact that you even had the courage to begin in the first place is one of the most wonderful things about creativity. I feel like, in some places, in like some parts of the world, there might not be like as much of a request for people being creative. There might be people who just want to kind of shut down creativity or just like, judge people for them being creative. But like, in my opinion, I say be as creative as you want to be. there's really no limits to this whole thing, like you just got to keep pushing at it. And even if you don't want to push yourself, just even having a base idea and just being able to just put it out there, it's one of the most important things about creativity in general. And I
Yeah,
love being creative.
yeah, yeah. Rick
The only thing that's
Rubin
stopping me, the only thing that's stopping me from being more creative is just like, you
is you.
know, is me.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Rick Rubin said, um, he has a quote where he says the therapeutic, um, I'm paraphrasing, but the therapeutic um process of the therapeutic like vibe that you get from creating is the outcome. So what you think is the outcome is not the outcome. The outcome is actually the process of you creating and the therapeutic energy that you get from the process of creating.
Therapeutic energy from your creativity.
Mhm.
It's the outcome.